Welcome to Worship Leader Hangout, where we talk about many aspects of leading worship and leading a worship team. Guys, I am so excited to be here in Panama City Beach with Pastor Julie. We are at Lighthouse Church, and she's a worship pastor here. And we're just going to hang out and talk about what God is doing here at Lighthouse. What's up, Julie? Thank you. First of all, thanks so much for having us. I mean, like I said a minute ago, it's cool. Cool just being here. I've been coming on vacation with my wife to see my parents that actually go here. Mm-hmm. And I've seen you guys from starting right here. This is the old sanctuary stage. I mean, there was a guitarist, bass player, a drummer, you on keys and singing, mm-hmm. longer hair.
Yeah.
And I remember, those days and seeing you this past Sunday in the new worship space where you guys went there and then back and then back again.
Right.
And it's cool to see where God has taken you, and not just the look of everything, but the sound, the cohesion in the band, how the Spirit moves in worship. And I want to talk about that and what you've seen over the last 5-7 years. I know you guys have been here 12 years this month.
Right.
So tell us about it.
It's been an adventure. We've been here 12 years, and so when we came, I didn't have any experience leading. Mm-hmm. Been on worship teams, served alongside of other people for a long time. A lot of my life, grew up in church, and we got here, and just really made ourselves available. Didn't have a lot of qualifications, just came along and started to grow in the things of God and just in leading. And so that's where I started. Like you said, I started off on the keys. I don't play keys anymore, really, because I'm not that good at it. But it got us through a season. And I actually remember when I first started playing, I could only hit chords. That was it. No rhythm, no nothing. Right. So it's just been a story of really making ourselves available and seeing what God would do. And He's been faithful, and by the grace of God, we've been able to build a team and grow in that aspect of our leadership, and we're getting to enjoy the fruit of that in the ministry now.
At what point did you feel like you needed to stop playing keys? Because I was kind of in a similar position where mm-hmm. I'd be behind my guitar and feel really comfortable leading behind the guitar.
Right.
And the pastor I was under at the time said, what if you stopped playing guitar and just held the mic or whatever, put it on a mic stand and led the people? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know. And I feel like that probably that same kind of thing is happening with you, because I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's actually been a really slow progression for me, and something they kind of had to push me out in front of the people, kind of kicking and screaming a little bit. Some keyboard players had come along over the years, and for a long time I still hung out behind the keyboard. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'd only play one song in the set, maybe, or something, but still sang from behind the keyboard, and
because it was comfortable.
It was comfortable, yeah. And that's just kind of something, part of my testimony that I've dealt with is, I've had some of these, talents that I wanted to use for God, but, dealt with fear and nerves mm-hmm. and all that sort of thing. So kind of having that, I guess, shelter of a keyboard was comfortable. But eventually God brought people along, and it was like, for a while there, I literally wasn't even playing during the services. I think, it's been a mixture of things. Wanting a little bit more freedom, but also it's freed me up vocally to do songs that are a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
And I just found that when I was dividing my attention between playing keys and singing,
right.
There's a level of difficulty that's hard to achieve vocally. So there's been that, and that's one aspect of it. There was things I liked about being on the keyboard is, for those moments where, maybe something would be happening in the spirit, and I just want to, maybe settle in on a song. I kind of had full control at that point. So I'd say actually it's still been a process, and it's only been about 2 years that I haven't been playing at all.
Right.
And so we made that switch about 2 years ago, and kind of brought all of our singers up towards the front. just recently, we put, added a talkback mic. So now one of my team members that's helping me lead has stepped up in that area. And that's starting to provide us a little bit more of that freedom that I feel like I've, given up. So I think it's just been a process and seeing what works. There's still times, honestly, where it's not comfortable for me. There's still times where I kind of want to run back behind the keyboard, and so really it's been relearning how to lead. I mean, I feel like I've really almost started over, because there's things that I wanted to do and it's a little more difficult to achieve, like I said, but I think that just comes with having a bigger team too.
Right.
How you have a team of 4 versus, 7 or 8 people on stage.
Right. And you have to trust them, and that's different. It says, they're great musicians. Trust them.
Absolutely.
Trust them. And if you want to come back into the song, if you wanted to get louder or more intense, whatever, bring them with you in the way you lead vocally and hand gesture, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
That's
and
cool.
Like you said, it's trusting other people on your team to do different things that maybe you wore several hats for a long time, and now it's about narrowing focus a little bit. And so that's, I think, something that we've been doing on our team in general.
Right.
Is for a long time there were several of us that did different things, and now it's been a little bit more of a process of defining what we do best.
Yeah.
And allowing other people the space to do things we used to do. And so, that's another aspect of it, is making room for other people to lead alongside of you.
Yeah. And speaking of that, how do you go about pulling new people on your team, or even people that have been here for a while, or people from the community? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, we have a process like many churches where, you join the dream team and start putting your hand to the plow, so to speak. And so we really use that process. We like for people, honestly, to, become part of our church and sort of get involved in some other aspect, usually before we, audition them for the worship team. We like to kind of get to know people. I've just found over the years that for us that's worked. And so that's what we do. If I'm being honest, that's probably one of my weaknesses. I'm not as good at just bringing a bunch of new people in. I like a lot of people, I get comfortable with certain musicians or whatever. So that's I think an evolving process for us, is how many is too many and how new is too new and all those sorts of things.
I think what happens too with that, I don't know if you experience this, but sometimes those people that are there all the time, and we forget that they want to be there, and I have this fear of burning them out when they don't even think about it whatsoever.
Yes.
And I know the girl this past Sunday, she was just to your right. I know she's been with
Brandy.
you guys for Brandy. I know she's been with you guys
My
for
first
a long
singer.
time.
Yeah.
I remember hearing her testimony right here in this room about, I guess it was a car accident, or and she she's a phenomenal singer with you and has been with you for a while. And people like that on my team, I feel like, oh man, am I going to burn them out? But they want to be there. They say, schedule me every week, and if I can't do it, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. I've actually had other worship leaders tell me they can't get people, they're begging people to serve, and honestly, for me, I'm in the same boat as you. My team, they almost feel punished if I make them sit out. So it's been a fine, balance of trying to make room for other people, and that's something that we've been talking about and continue to talk about as a team. And we want to honor and respect people who've poured their lives into this place, and but at the same time, we don't want it to be us four no more. So we're regularly talking as a team about the fact that we've got to be willing to make room. And also, we don't want to limit what God's going to do here. And so we know that involves not only letting new people in. For us, a big part of that we've been discussing is making room for the next generation. And so that's another aspect, is our young people.
That's right. Yeah. And one of the books I was reading not too long ago, the guy said, pull people on your team, put people in place that you feel like are better than you.
Absolutely.
And don't be afraid of that, because they're gonna make you better. They're gonna make the team better.
I think that's been a key for me. It really has been. I mentioned that I'm a capable keys player, but I'm not a great keys player. And a large part of our growth in the music department has been due to me letting better musicians than myself come alongside of me and give me input. I mean,
Yeah.
that's been a huge aspect of our growth, and I can look back in every season and remember lessons that I learned, and they're all largely due to other musicians that have come along and said, well, have you ever thought about this, or what about this aspect,
Yep.
And I grew up in a certain type of church with a certain type of music, and that was my world. That's what I knew as far as worship was concerned.
Yeah.
And so when other people came along and said, well, why don't we try this, or why don't we try that, it's absolutely been just multiple seasons of me allowing other people to come along and give input, and that's still a big part of our team.
How do you grow your team? I'm sorry. How do you grow your team spiritually, and the relationship with each other and the friendships? I mean, do you have meetings, like regular meetings with the entire team, or do you have a smaller group of leaders? Or
Sure.
How do you do that?
A lot of it for me is organic. I
Okay.
mean, I'm a big relationship person. And so I think that during our practice times, if that's a time where you automatically have every Thursday night you're together, but I find that during that time, you have to accomplish things, but also making sure that you pull back some and just give room to enjoy one another, to laugh together, to pray together, to look at scripture with one another, has been big on our team. We actually, up until now, we're actually making some exciting changes at our church that we just announced this week. And we've always done Wednesday night services. And so our team has always been here Wednesday doing a full set of worship, just like Sunday morning. So we get here at 5:30 on Wednesday nights, and they do that. And then we come back for practice at 6:30 on Thursday nights. So our teams, and then Sunday mornings we do 3 services. So we've had a difficult time providing another time frame for discipleship specifically focused on that and our team, and just because of the time commitments that we already ask of them. But we're actually transitioning our Wednesday nights right now, and just to specifically focus on leaders a couple of nights of the month, and so we're excited about that. That's something that is new for us. We'll be continuing to do our night of worship the first Wednesday night of every month, which is just a night where we do all worship, but we'll have one specific Wednesday night where it'll just be a service for leaders and people like our worship team who have some influence in our community, and so we're excited about that. That'll be time to just specifically pour into them.
Spiritually, and maybe other things too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. Yeah. Do you have like a creative team, like a team that creates for that Sunday experience, or is that more the staff that do that, or how does that work?
It's we have leadership on the staff for that, but really we do have a creative team that is involved in our media, sound, graphics, all those sorts of things, and they actually all join us on Thursday nights too. So they've become a real extension of our worship team. We have really great, deep friendships with them as well. A lot of them, even if they're not on the schedule, they come hang out with us on Thursday nights during practice. Cool. So we really have an atmosphere on Thursday nights of just like, even if you're not on the schedule, people just want to come hang out, and they do. We'll have 10 people that aren't on stage hanging out. So it just becomes a real fun atmosphere, and people hang around and talk afterwards. We hang out before, we go to ice cream, whatever. So our creative team does join us. We have some people that also volunteer leadership on that team, but also there's staff leadership. So.
And do they meet regularly, like once a month, once a week, that kind of thing, and with you guys, or how does the actual creation of things happen?
Yeah. Most of the regular meetings happen amongst our staff.
Okay.
But it's just we do communicate with them, and like I said, most of it, if it's like things that we need them to accomplish, kind of thing, it mostly happens on Thursday nights.
Okay, so that still would happen.
Right, because I'm here leading worship on Thursday nights, but Joey, who's our technical director, he'll be here on Thursday nights as well, hanging out with his team in the sound booth, kind of casting vision with them. So you guys you decide maybe, this is what we want to do, and you give it to them maybe on Thursday nights or whenever throughout the week, and
And they make that happen.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I will say, I think that our church, we don't do a lot of complicated, creative stuff. We like to use props from time to time and that sort of thing, or maybe have a video here and there. But sort of one of our strategies over the years has been to just do a few things really well.
Mm-hmm.
And music, as far as our creativity is concerned, has been one of those things.
Right,
I mean,
right.
we've really put a lot of time and energy and money, whatever,
Yeah.
into just having a great worship team.
Right.
And so so a lot of what they help us with is supporting that, but we haven't necessarily ventured into a lot of the things. We don't even live stream it. We don't even have cameras in our sanctuary because we've just been waiting for the right season.
Right. Wait until you can do that well.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of been our strategy with a lot of different things, and so we don't like to get too many things going before we're ready for it.
Right. Yeah. Doing everything you can extremely well before you actually move into something else to add on to. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Do you guys use loops and clicks at all? Or
We do. Yes.
Through what's your system that you use for that?
Well, I know we've been through Ableton and Mainstage.
Okay.
Seems like we have another one now too. But anyways, Rob, who plays keys and really assists me as a leader, really over our music portion of things.
He's kind of like your MD, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Music director, yeah. And he handles that stuff. And so I know he's been experimenting. I wish I could answer that exactly. But he's kind of been experimenting with some new things, I know.
Yeah.
So
there's a more simple one called Loop Community, where you just use like an iPad.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we do now.
Yeah.
We could move into the more complicated things, but I mean, like you said earlier, I mean, keeping it as simple as possible and doing it as well as you can.
Yeah, and that's definitely been a tension with us on loops and tracks and click and all those sorts of things.
Right.
It's another thing we've kind of had to ease ourselves into. And for us, we rarely use a loop or a track on a slow song. Okay. There are a few where we start with them, but we never finish a song with a loop on slow stuff or a track.
Is that because you want to take it in a different area than
right? It's just and it's just one of those things for us, just kind of forcing ourselves to maintain a little bit of freedom, and so we really utilize them more on fast stuff, and that's just because so much of the stuff now has a lot of synth and so it's kind of
more
beefs it up a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's more structured anyway. Some of that faster stuff.
Correct. Yeah, and so that's something that we've done is we balance the thing. Now click we use on almost everything. I mean, we're using click on just about every song, but I mean 99% of our slow things it's just a click in our ear. That's it. Right. So that's how we do it. And like I said, that's just to maintain some level of freedom. I'm kind of one of those where I want to balance that. It's like I want to, sorry, that's probably my tongue. I want to, progress in how we're doing things, and I know that, there's all kinds of new tools out there. Just also want to, try to maintain some.
Well, I think using a click, I mean, if you have the band for it, using a click is, that's good enough. Yeah. Because, you have a full band, full sound. I mean, maybe adding an extra pad or synth here and there. But you guys seem very gelled in that area.
Yeah, and that's what we do, and that allows us, especially on our nights of worship and things like that, where we can flow easily between songs as much as possible. And there's even times where we'll abandon click here and there, just because it's like I want to go straight from this to that. I won't have to worry about it. So we have those moments, but definitely with, I feel like across the board, everybody's doing things that are more difficult now than we did 10 years ago. And so, there's definitely some of those things that help you out there. Yeah. So.
Have you had any resistance with anyone that maybe see that, okay, we're moving into a click or moving to using more loops than we have in the past or whatever aspect of your worship? Has anybody ever said, well, I'm just not looking to move in that direction?
I really haven't.
Okay.
We've been able to bring everybody along with us, you know, for the most part over the years. I have a lot of longtime players on my team. I'd say, honestly, one of the hardest transition for most of us that are, you know, in our 30s and 40s has been inners. And
Okay.
we were so used to wedge monitors. That's been a real transition, believe it
Yeah.
or not. And I know for, you know, people who've been playing with those their whole lives, it's not a big deal, but that was a big transition for me and for all of my players that are, like I said, in their 30s and 40s. You know,
Are you
it's
using,
huge.
you're using inner with maybe Avion or?
We're using
something else?
Avions right
Okay.
now. We're actually getting ready to switch that also. So we're
To
going
the
to.
Behringer system or just something totally different?
Good question.
Okay, that's all right.
It is
We just made that switch.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're making a switch. You know, it's just we've kind of tapped out the Avion.
Yeah.
You know, their limitations, and so
Mhm.
we're kind of just ready to move on. So we're
Absolutely.
making those switch, and so we can have some more opportunities for our mixes and things like that. So.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's really cool. Now, what's the biggest thing, the biggest difference you've seen from when you started, however many years ago, maybe 12, 11 years ago, when you started here as the worship leader, as a worship pastor, to now? What's the biggest change or difference that you've seen?
The biggest change in our church, or just in
Maybe more focused in with your worship team
like with our worship team?
and your worship altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the level of difficulty of what we're doing. I
Okay.
mean, you know, it's just there again. I mean, we're talking when I started, most of my songs were 4 chords that
Mhm.
stayed on those 4 chords. I made it into a 4-chord song, whether it was or not. So, you know, just
Yeah.
one progression the whole entire song, and
Right.
kept it real simple. I mean, you know,
So you could say maybe your expectation level.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've continually sort of pushed ourselves. I mean, stylistically also, you know, there's been a lot of changes over the years, and I find that we're constantly evolving there too.
Yeah.
We're always kind of pushing the limit a little bit, and I think that's, you know, something that keeps your musicians engaged also.
Yeah.
You know, because as you grow and as people who are doing these things week in and week out,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes it's just fun to change things up.
Yeah.
And I just find that if, you know, your worship team is doing something fresh, it translates. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
if they're excited about it, people get excited about it. If they're not, you know, that also translates. And so it has to be ministering to us, you know, first and foremost, if we're going to minister to other people and lead them. And
Mhm.
so that's been a big thing in our worship team and in our congregation, is just, you know, not being afraid to kind of go into new territory. And
Exactly.
sometimes I went too far, in all honesty, and I'm like, whoa, they weren't ready for that, you know. And
Your team and maybe even the congregation. too,
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I'm somebody who, I believe in pushing yourself, but when it was just me on the piano and my skill level wasn't, you know, real high, I really kept to things that I could do well.
Mhm.
And I kept to things I could do well with a small band and
Right.
with one vocalist and with a keyboard, or, you know, then we had another vocalist or whatever. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I just find that I think, you know, it's okay to be in whatever season you're in. But, you know, you have to balance that tension of, you know, moving forward and being uncomfortable with your, you know, capabilities, and
Mhm.
kind of being realistic also. So,
Absolutely.
you know, I just find that that's something that we've also always done as we move forward. Like,
Right.
we push a little bit, but, you know, I don't come in one Sunday and just change everything.
Oh, of course.
And like I said, I've always tried to stay within things that I felt like we could do well. There's still times where I bring a song to the table and we can't do it well. We can't make it fit our sound, or, you know,
Yeah.
no, there's not a vocalist on our team that can, you know, do a good job. And
that's
I'm willing to throw things
okay.
out if
Yeah.
that's the case, you know. So I feel like you can do yourself a disservice
Mhm.
by trying to, you know, do too much sometimes.
Right. And let's end with this. I know
Okay.
a lot of guys and gals like to know, like to hear how other worship leaders choose songs, or like how they maybe even kind of change their song list around their set list. And so how do you guys decide what songs you're going to do and decide how long you keep them? Because I know that's a big thing.
Sure.
You know, sometimes we feel like, oh man, we're wearing this song out. The congregation's really only heard it 5 times or 6 times, but you guys have played it at least 300. Mm-hmm. I mean, so how does that work? I mean, we'll kind of end there because I know that's a big deal for worship leaders.
Yeah. And that's, I'm primarily the person who picks songs now. Of course, I'm, always asking for input from the team.
Okay.
I think as far as like song choices week to week and whether or not we've worn out a song, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? I really do depend a lot on, our church is a pretty vibrant church. They're a worshiping church.
Yeah.
And I really do try to tune in to what's happening in our congregation. My perspective on this is I know it's not always just about looking for a reaction, and maybe some people don't like that aspect of, this sort of thing. But for me, I'm leading these people in worship.
Right.
I'm here to see them experience God. I'm here to see them have a moment in their life, and so if I'm not seeing anything happen out there, that's a big sign for me. So I feel like as a worship leader, I'm constantly paying attention to what's happening out there.
Right.
And I do that with new songs. I do that with songs that we've sang a million times, and that's a big way that I really determine, whether or not this is a fit for our congregation. I mean, if I'm here to lead them in worship and they're not worshiping, there's a problem, right?
Right.
So
and balancing that with your forward movement and where you want to go, where you want to take them.
Absolutely. And I think it depends on the song too. I've always had this sort of idea that, you've got songs that are more repetitive. Mm-hmm. They're usually simpler for your team to do. They're simpler for the congregation to catch on to. And their shelf life, they're going to hit hard, but their shelf life as a practical, thing isn't going to be as long.
Yeah.
Songs, for me, that usually take longer to teach your congregation, they have more depth to them, they're wordier. They'll take a lot longer for your congregation to catch, so you have to expect that.
Right.
But you can keep them a lot longer.
Yeah.
And so, Break Every Chain is a good example. It's great, we hit that thing and it was like awesome, for a year.
It's really repetitive.
But after a year, we're like, we're done. We've sang this till we can't sing it no more.
And I'll pull in another one. I mean, that's kind of how Great I Am was too with us.
Absolutely.
And it was powerful, but you sing it so much, they're like, okay.
Now you're done.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, it had its season.
Yeah,
Can't go back, But then, there's other songs that we've done over the years that, they're a little wordier and they took a lot longer for our congregation to catch on to, but I might use them for 3 years.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
they're not necessarily, they might be powerful in the moment, but they're not ones probably either that people go home singing, repetitively. And so I think I am always looking to balance those types of songs in our church. I want ones that hit hard, but I also want ones that have some depth to them, because that helps balance out having to add in songs for
Absolutely.
me.
And all right, so we'll end it with this. Right now, July 2016, what is your favorite worship song right now that you guys do here at Lighthouse?
I have to go with One Thing.
One Thing by...
For me, that's Hillsong United.
Yep. All right.
I've been loving that song, so.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Well, thank you so much for being on Worship Leader Hangout, allowing us in, what do you call this? What's this room?
This is our student room.
Student room. And just be able to talk with you, hang out, and learn about Lighthouse. And we really appreciate being here.
My privilege. Thanks, Chad.
And man, it's awesome. Guys, you know what to do. Remember to subscribe, and you'll see a subscribe button somewhere on the screen. And